Every now and then, a video game will come out that transcends other video games for you. Persona 4 Golden is one of those games that resonated with me. One of those few rare games where you put the controller down after beating it, roll credits, and you keep thinking about it. And you think about it for days, and then months, and those months turn into years after you've finished beating it. It's one of those games you always periodically think back to. It's become one of my core gaming memories. And why is that? Because to me, I'm a big fan of Persona overall. I love P5, I'm loving P3, I loved P4 Golden, but what is it about Golden specifically that I think it gets right? So right, in fact, that it stands the test of time. Despite that fact that sure, the graphics may be a little bit dated, sure, the animations may not be as clean as many modern video games out there, but what is it about this game specifically where to me it shines just as golden as any of those other games? And I've talked about why Persona 4 Golden is one of my favorite games of all time. I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. I want to focus on the characters, because to me, the characters are why I love this game so much. Sure, the combat's really fun, customizing personas is really interesting. It's a core gameplay loop of JRPGs, especially Persona JRPGs, that I just find interesting and fascinating. Exploring the overworld, really interesting. A lot of different activities to do, a lot of things to manage, time management. I like those activities. The social simulator aspects, the dungeon crawling, all fun and intriguing and dynamic that changes the game pace up over and over again to keep you on your toes, giving you a plethora of different activities that you can do at any time, any number of things to keep track of. But the characters of P4 Golden stand in the highest of echelons of video game characters overall for me. Don't get me wrong, I love P3 and P5's cast, but to me, it's the way they do storytelling in P4 Golden specifically, and I need to sit up for this one. It's the way they do character development, and the way they tell the story of Golden, that makes the cast so endearing, so intriguing, where all these dynamics between each and every one of these characters is just fun. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos, you may know that I'm not that big of a fan of describing a game as quote-unquote fun. I prefer the term engaging, because not every activity you do in a game is necessarily for your own enjoyment. It could be something emotional, something sad, depressing, and P4 Golden definitely has scenes like that, especially with its characters, and especially in the back half, where it's not the happy-go-lucky small-town vibes of Yasuo Inaba, where you're going out on a freaking camping trip with the boys. No, this game can get dark. It's still lighter overall in tone than, say, P3 or P5, let alone Shin Megami Tensei. But to me, that's one of the key things about it, because it understands the tone that it's going for. It understands how it can keep you on your toes, how it can go from one extreme to the other, and it utilizes that with its characters to make them so endearing, where you'll have these just wacky, fun scenes that are low stress, where the characters are just having fun. Like Kanji getting those glasses with the fake mustache on them. There's no reason that scene is in there. No reason for the plot, because it's not advancing the plot at all, really, outside of saying Kanji's joining the team. But what it's doing there particularly is bringing Kanji into the fold with the other characters. And Persona 4 does a lot of scenes like this, where they'll just throw a bunch of comedy at you, intermittently. And what the comedy does, what its objective is to make these characters likable, and to bring them into the fold, give them scenes with each of the other characters so you understand the dynamics between any two characters. It's not like a group is split off into certain, almost little sections or little individual groups of party members that interact with one another, maybe as a whole, but you really get, say, any two characters interact with one another. What Persona 4 Golden does so well is you get the dynamics between each of these characters. Kanji has interesting interactions with every other party member. Same thing with Yosuke, same thing with the main character, same thing with Chie, same thing with Yukiko, same thing with Rise, same thing with Naoto, same thing with Teddy especially, because they're willing to take their time, and they're willing to say, hey, we don't need to always be in your face about how dark and depressing the main plot, the main murder mystery that we have is going on. We don't need to be in your face about that. What we can do is just take a step back, let the comedy speak for itself, let these characters breathe, and let them speak for themselves, so you get more attached to these characters and their interesting dynamics, so that when those big moments come into play, where back's against the wall, you have to focus on this murder mystery, those scenes resonate with me so much more. Now, this isn't a formula that will resonate for everybody. Some people will just flat out prefer a darker tone or just say, hey, the comedy doesn't hit for me. That's entirely fine. Comedy is extremely subjective. But I'm just saying, for me personally, I'm a big fan of when games, and especially these longer form JRPGs that are going to go probably 60, 100 hours, are willing to take their time and let these characters just breathe and develop their own interesting dynamics between the groups. But if the game was only just about the comedy, I wouldn't be making this video. There's a fundamental mechanic, a fundamental formula at play with Persona 4 Golden that I particularly find interesting in terms of how it develops its characters. And that, for me, comes with the social links. Because the social links for the main party member are fundamentally different in nature to me than, say, the likes of P5. Or, say, I haven't really gotten to the ones in P3, so I'm not going to talk about those. But think a lot about the confidants of P5. A lot of them tend to focus on the confidant and that confidant's relationship with some third party out there. With Ryuji, it was the track team. With An, it was, oh my god, I forgot her name, but her best friend. With Makoto, it was that girl she was trying to become friends with. Now, there were a couple that were really focused on Joker and that confidant. I would say Yosuke and Futaba kind of fall into that mix. But more often than not, the social link is about that confidant and their relationship with a third party. But what Persona 4 Golden does, and one of the reasons that I particularly find P4's cast to transcend a lot of other games for me, and I'm talking maybe top 3 cast of all time for me, heck, arguably top 2, that to me is how it handles each character's individual story arc, where they'll have a palace, right, like a dungeon that you have to do. There'll be a set of time set aside in the main story for you to go into that dungeon, learn about that character, complete the dungeon, have that character come to terms with their inner self, and then you bring them into the fold with the investigation team. A lot of other games and a lot of other stories. I'm not like trying to talk about P5 here. I'm talking about in general. A lot of other games would just end that character's story right there. But not P4. What P4 does, and does so brilliantly so in my opinion, is it expands on that story in the social links. So if you're particularly interested in a character, what you can do is optionally seek that character out in the social links and get even more development. And not just development, the result of the development that that character got in the main story. You can argue that certain social links are better at this than others, but on the whole, that tends to be P4 Golden's MO when it comes to how it's going to tell a story in a social link. And that layer of player agency, where if you're particularly interested in a character and learning more about their story or them as a character, you can go and seek out their social link. You don't need to do it. They'll still be a likable enough character, even without any of that. I mean, if you just do the main story. You don't need it, but if you want additional stuff on top of that, or at least more context, or expand the relationship between the main character, you, and that social link, that activity is there to do. And the way that the social link is structured, it's going to really flesh out that character. And that to me is one of the reasons I found the cast of P4 so engaging. It was because it was this almost cyclical loop where they would introduce a character. You would get to know them, get to know their struggles, their tragic enemy backstory, help them come to terms with their inner self, get a cool boss fight out of it, beat it, they would join the group, you probably get a new party member or something, and then at some point in the future you can choose to level up that social link. And as you're doing that new social link, you're probably being introduced to a new party member. P4 never feels like a character gets left in the dust in terms of its development. And when you combine that with the balancing between the serious moments and the comedy, lighthearted moments of the main story, it creates this overall formula for me personally that resonates in terms of making me really care about a core cast of characters. Because I get to see them at their highest highs and their lowest lows. I get to see how they interact with the group, how they interact on an individual level, what they're thinking, how they're feeling. You bring that character in. Now, they can use that development that the character just got to use it for the development of other characters. And I like that. I really do. Also, maybe I just really like the overall theme of Persona 4 Golden, which is all about accepting his true self. Maybe I just really resonate with that story. I don't know. But all I know is, the more and more I think about P4 Golden, the more and more I realize these are kind of the core pillars of why I enjoy this cast so much. Because you really start from only a couple of people in your main party, and then the group grows in size, but they also grow together, and they grow closer, and they feel ironclad by the end of the game. Like, the group itself feels like it has a personality. and it's composed of a bunch of these other differing but fun and entertaining personalities that you're constantly introduced to, that are constantly expanded on. And that is why I love P4 Golden's cast so much, and why, to me, P4 Golden is so special of a game for me. So I'm going to call the video there for today. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day. Leave a comment down below with your favorite party member of Persona 4 Golden. Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your perspective. And let me know why. Was it a particular part of the story, particular part about the character, maybe just a funny line? I'd love to know your thoughts and hear your opinions. Or let me know what your favorite Persona game is. Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and let me tell me why. I'd love to hear them. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.